keywords need to align with your ad copy, and they need to align with your landing page. Or in another way, you need to have landing page congruency with your keywords and ad copy. If they search the keyword and the ad copy relates to the keyword, then the landing page that they go to must relate to the keyword and the ad copy that they search for. Because if they don't, they're going to realize that this is not the place that they need to be, and they're just going to bounce.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Marketing Blender Show. I am Dacia Coffey, and as you can see, I have our digital marketing expert, Ramsey Sanchez, back with us. And I'm super excited today because today he is here to walk you through 6 pro tips on how to get maximum ROI out of your B2B Google Ads. Now, this is cool because so often we hear clients and they go, no, we've tried Google Ads, we've tried digital marketing, it didn't work for us. We're about to talk about why, because this has been a game changer for so many of our clients. And one of the things we talk about frequently on the show and in our agency is that marketing has 2 goals. Number 1, it should impact revenue clearly and sustainably. And number 2, it should be a system. And Google Ads is an awesome addition to the system because there is so many ways to optimize and just keep getting more and more ROI and customer insights. So I love this, Ramsey. You ready?
Yes, I'm definitely ready. Thank you for having me on this. Yeah, I'm excited. Let's get right into it.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm just going to say, of course, we have to start at keyword strategy. Anytime we're talking about how to get the most out of this keyword strategy. So how do you do the strategy, and what does that even mean?
Yeah, so keyword strategy, keywords are the things that you need to really focus on the most, especially if you're setting up your ad group, your campaign in Google Ads. Really, oftentimes, if you're just starting out with your campaigns and you're trying to get a campaign set up for your core service, a lot of times you know what your keyword's going to be, right? So, for example, the most recent one I can think of is commercial roofing experts, right? So someone needs commercial roofing repair.
Yeah.
And that right there could be your keyword. However, that is just one keyword. And so you definitely want to offer other keywords or services on your Google Ads campaign. So when you're setting up your campaign, you need to do some research into what are those different keywords. And a lot of times it's very difficult for business owners to find that process of doing that, because for us at the Blender, we do a keyword survey tool to kind of get more insight into what that is, and who is your target persona, what keywords and services you offer and things like that. That gives us a lot of insight, because you don't want to just take random terms and keywords and write them down and put them in your ad campaigns, because you're just going to waste a lot of your money and you're not going to get conversions.
Oh my gosh. I want to stop on that really quickly because we see that a lot. People say, Google Ads didn't work for us. Mm-hmm. And when you get into their old campaigns, they literally didn't use a single bit of data. They said, I want to rank for this. Then whatever agency or digital marketer did that for them, they said, okay. And they just set it up. And they didn't look at all at how many people searched that. What kind of intent is behind that? Does it match the persona? Because we've seen keyword research one time where there was some really great volume, but the keywords were really elementary for an engineering group.
Yeah.
And so the senior executives that we were trying to reach would never have Googled those questions. Yeah. So they can rank, but for the complete wrong persona. And so those leads are not actually leads. They're just people researching. And so they end up being garbage, nothing having to do with revenue. So I love that you're bringing that up, because there is so much behind what you're ranking for. And it should be, what do people need to find you for, not what do you want? Yeah.
Yeah, that's 100% you have that right. Perfectly said. I mean, because when someone's going to Google, right, most of Google's revenue share is based on Google Ads, right? I mean, they also host a lot of people's websites. Someone is going to Google and they're searching for this service, and they may not at first know exactly what they're searching for, because they might be in a research phase. Someone told this person, hey, go research the top three potential clients that we can work with, or people that we want to partner with, and or service. Or, they know exactly what they are looking for. And like you said, if there is a higher level keyword, a longer tail keyword that these search intent users are searching for, you definitely want to be at the top of the page, right? So if you're not there organically, Google Ads can really help in that area. So the thing I wanted to talk about with the search keywords were the process of setting up your keyword strategy. And so a lot of times, you might have one specific service, but there are a lot of subcategories under that keyword.
Yeah.
So like commercial roofing, I found that there's all kinds of things you can do. You can do, spray, repair, laying out all these different plastic. There's all kinds of things under there. So those could all be potential keywords. And if you have the right tools, SaaS tools that you can go and do the research on these keywords, you can see what kind of monthly volume comes through from these keywords, if it makes sense, if there's data behind these keywords, to then include it into your plan. One thing I like to say about the keyword strategy is you don't want to go like too broad for your keywords. You don't want to have to stuff a bunch of keywords into your ad group or your campaign, right? Just find the ones that make the most sense. You don't need too many. You don't need a list of 100 keywords just doesn't make sense, because Google is not going to allocate as much budget to all those keywords.
It'll water down the effectiveness, right?
It will water it down. You're just going to have a bunch of keywords in the list, and they may be keywords that you want to rank for, but there's a way of doing that. You need to have them in specific ad groups. You may need to put them in a different campaign. And that way you can actually have some money going towards that. However, if you're like working with a smaller budget, again, start with those core service keywords and put those in your ad group and make sure that everything just aligns with those keywords.
One other thing I want to bring up for the audience is that Google Ads is not guesswork, you guys. So Ramsey's already outlined strategic criteria that he works with a client, works with a CMO in order to really nail down for the client. But also, he then runs projections, because Google will tell you, if you spend $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, here's the number of clicks that they believe you're going to get. Here's the number of conversions. And so we can look at that and say, is that good ROI? And the ROI is based on, is the strategy behind that, or is this targeting the right people so that you get quality leads? But it is not guesswork. From the very beginning, there is a benchmark of success, and then you immediately start watching that data to make sure that it's matching what you expected to get. So I just always want to throw that out there, because this is really straightforward, data-driven, exciting tactics. And so often that's not what people have experienced from whoever's supporting or whoever's set up their campaigns in the past.
Yeah. And so, we want to get into like how keywords can, help with conversions, right? So a lot of times if you're your own person, if you're your own business, or you hired somebody within your company to go set up your ad campaigns and you set up the keywords, there is something that I like to kind of call the parasitic draw for keywords. And what that means is that each term has something that someone else put this another way was, for that keyword, Google will try to recommend or find keywords that are in the same meaning of that keyword and serve your ad for multiple sets of keywords, right? So for example, event planner, if you were to take that general keyword and put it into Google Ads, you're going to come up for all kinds of event planning, wedding planning, kids event planning, corporate event planning, all these different keywords, and not all of those keywords are going to be the ones you want to rank for. And that will ultimately take a lot of your budget, and you're going to see that a lot of those users who come to your website just bounce right off because they were not the right target audience.
Oh my gosh, we see this so much in industrial on the B2B side, because for instance, with our concrete product manufacturers, there are culverts for residential. We don't want to rank for that. For HVAC or for any of those services, we're not talking about residential. We're not talking about the homeowner whose AC just went out. We're trying to really make sure that we're talking building envelope and some of those bigger things. And so I love this one. And I love that name. That's hilarious. Parasitic draw. But that's what it is. Just sucking the life out of what you're supposed to be getting.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm totally stealing that from you.
Yeah.
now.
That was funny because that's something I heard when my battery went out and I went to AutoZone, and they were saying, I was telling them, I think my battery is going out too often. Like, feels like it's less than 2 years. And they said, well, you just need to see what you have plugged in your car, because that's your parasitic draw. That you have something plugged in that's drawing too much power from your battery every day. It's a small amount for that day, but when it compounds over every day, it's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So it's the same thing with the keyword. You put one keyword in, but you're not realizing that there's 100 keywords that keyword could be ranking for. And each of those are taking a little bit of click, a little bit, which is, cost per click. So, a little bit of your ad dollars every single day. And then when you look at the numbers, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I spent this much on these terms, when if I was to set up a proper keyword list, negative keyword list, I would have mitigate this whole process. So that kind of goes into the next step, is once you have your keyword list, you probably want to find a keyword list that you do not want to rank for. Typically, some of the general ones that we go for and adding into your negative keyword list is, free, cheap, DIY, sometimes the how-tos, because a lot of times those people are looking for, again, a free process, a do-it-yourself process, and we're not about that. We want to be the ones who help you, or as your company, you want to be the ones who service them. So that is something that's very important. You may be able to find more, and you add those to your campaigns. Be careful, because sometimes you may add them in a wrong way. You want to do it with a process. But a lot of times, even with in the most recent case, like we were working with an event planner, she was seeing that a lot of the key search terms coming through were around wedding. And she said, I do not want to do wedding at all.
Right? Not B2B.
Yeah, and she was adding those terms into the negative keyword list, but they were still popping up. So a lot of times you need to find that one trending keyword and just add that one specific keyword, and it can solve all your problems for the terms that you do not want to show up for.
We saw that in hazmat too. I mean, that was an absolute game changer when you really started diving deeper. Where's it being served up? Where that's not what they wanted.
That's right.
And interestingly, I remember in that scenario, there were some keywords that were appropriate for them, but they were drawing the wrong leads because the people searching it misunderstood those keywords. And so they ended up turning into negative keywords, even though they were technically accurate for the business. But that's the great thing about you sharing data, talking to the client, saying, are these sales qualified leads? What happened with them? And then taking that insight from what actually happened from those calls and clicks and conversations back and recirculating. Okay, how do we just keep optimizing? But you never abandon keyword strategy. That's why we started with this.
Yeah, and that's a great example. I'm glad you brought that one up, because with the hazmat team, we noticed that one of the campaigns with the ad group around that specific keyword, we were seeing a lot of the search terms coming up for lots of competitors. I hadn't realized how many competitors was in that specific space. And so once I realized that a lot of these competitors were coming up as search terms, I would add some keywords to the negative keyword list, but then I decided, you know what, some of these keywords are just bringing in too much traffic. So Google does have a really cool option where you can set up a match type for your keywords. So there's broad, which is sort of like opening up the floodgates for how many terms come in.
Yeah.
Then there's phrase match, which is kind of narrowing down that niche market and finding more meaning around those keywords. Where broad is more of like, it could be errors, or cars and socks could be almost the same shoes and socks could mean the same thing. Whereas phrase, it's going to try to use more of that keyword. And then there's exact, which is it's going to try to stay within that keyword.
Those exact words that you entered and that match the people entering those exact words. Is that right?
Yeah, when people entering, for Google, it's going to be very, very close to those terms. It used to be that Google Ads had a better exact match strategy. They have changed it up a little bit because it was just a little too much of a strong gate.
Yeah.
So, but essentially that's what it is. You're creating a stronger gate with your keywords. And so once we added switched those keywords from a phrase to an exact, those services or those competitors almost immediately overnight just stopped showing up.
Yes.
And the terms that we wanted to really rank for were then the ones being searched for, and we can see that in our data. And then it improved because all of the budget that was going towards those terms then started to get allocated across other ad groups, and then we started to see that, this also improved the quality of the leads in the other ad groups. So.
And this is where I get so excited because these insights also circulate back to this chief marketing officer. And then we are rethinking, okay, messaging and what does this really mean? And how do we better use the words that the market is using? And so it's not a one and done little siloed scenario. We can get such great customer insight that then can roll back to everything that we're doing based on this lead generation strategy. And there's just so much more. Now, one other thing I know you focus a lot on is long tail keywords. Can you explain that and talk to us about like when you're really looking for that and why does it matter?
Yeah, so that's a very important question. A lot of times you definitely want to try to think like the search user. What is it that they're searching for? Sometimes they may just go to Google really quickly and actually put in event planning, but they may want to look for something specific. Corporate event planner near me, you know, and that it's typically going to be a long tail is like 3 to 5 terms, keywords in one term, and that's really all it is. But that really helps narrow down the search to that specific person searching for that type of service. So there really isn't much to it, but there are not a lot of them that exist out there. Again, there's not too much data behind a lot of long tail keywords, but sometimes you'll find that when you're going through when you set up your keywords, it gives you a lot of insight of what other terms you can show up for. And that's another cool thing about search terms is that it will recommend some keywords that are long tail that you could add to your keyword list. So you should at all times try to be adding keywords to your negative keyword list to tell Google, I don't want to rank for these. And then you want to add keywords to your list that actually do make sense for your business. So a lot of times it's going to be those long tail keywords. It could be some other keywords are 3 or less. So, that's kind of really important as well. So
yeah, and one final thing before we start talking about some other aspects I want to bring up with that long tail keyword is actually about competition, right? Because there are certain industries that are so competitive. And why this matters is if you're in a highly competitive market, think healthcare, for instance, or something that maybe somewhat aligns with consumer, the more competitive the industry, the more expensive the monthly spend, because there is a point where you can underinvest and it might be a lot for you, but you're not going to get anything because your competitors are spending $10K a month, $20K a month, $100K a month. And there are times when we're like, yeah, your keywords are there and your customers are there and you cannot compete because of your size. So sometimes long tail keywords can be the answer, but these are the type of straightforward questions, strategic questions that you want to be having with your CMO and your digital marketer in order to really find those awesome places where you can win, where David can beat Goliath, or where you can make sure that you don't waste that and you look at other strategies to create lead generation for you. So we could just go on and on about keywords, but hopefully they've heard this is the foundation on which all digital ROI stands on. So after this, we move into ad copy, of course, because so now we're talking, what do people type into Google? And now we have to respond with, and what do they see when our ad pops up? So we see a lot of people abdicate responsibility around ad copy. So what should the ad say? Yeah,
so that's perfect way of, putting it. I mean, but it's essentially like your digital billboard, right? So the keywords are going to serve the ad, right? Everything relies on the keywords. When they search in Google, that's what's going to create the ad to pop up on, whether it might be search network, right, on the Google Ads, or it's going to be on Google My Business. That's where essentially your first headlines and descriptions are going to show up. So it's very important in this section that you sort of, again, create that gate of who it is that you want to reach out to, because that is in a sense speaking to that user, right? So they type in the keyword event planner, and then you have in your copy, you must include those, high level services and the high level copy that speaks to that person. And that way you have a little bit more of a leverage on that, right? So copy doesn't necessarily have as much of a, it has a huge impact because, for two reasons. If you have your keywords that you're trying to rank for, you definitely want to add those keywords to your headlines, right? So this kind of goes back to not having too many keywords in your ad group, because there might be only a select few that you really want to rank for. So I've seen where if you add that keyword to your headlines or to your description, Google somehow sees that and understands that when they scan your ads and they see that, hey, it's related to the keyword. We're going to serve this ad a little bit more often for that keyword because it's in your copy and it's relevant for that person who's searching for your service. So if you have another keyword, it's very important that you don't go in there and change up the copy too much or too often, because then you'll start to realize that Google is now serving for another term that you added into the head copy. So you got to be careful in this space. Once you have it set it up, don't do too many changes. Like you don't make too many changes to the ad copy. It's probably the first thing I should start with is like, once you set up the campaigns, do it right the first time, because you do not want to touch it after, a couple of weeks. And there might be some things where you have to pull out, but, or remove and withdraw. But, like a lot of times it needs to be, you need to allow Google to help you in, ranking in that area. So
I think this is a really great point, because you don't want a CEO or head of sales or something coming across the ad and going, wait, I don't want us to say that. I want our tagline in there. I want this in there. No, that is not how the algorithm and how machine learning works. And there's such clear rationale and then relevance scores around does it match what the intent is of that searcher. And I think this is so important because it's also about user experience. So I'm typing something in, and we see this a lot with software companies and technology companies. I'm typing something in, I need a solution. I know I'm researching the different people out there, the different companies out there. And I want that ad to be like, oh, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And if you try to maneuver it too much, you can blow up both the user experience as well as your return on investment, because you're trying to control it versus trusting the data, trusting the system, and trusting the expert.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm really glad you brought that up about the adding like the tagline, the slogan in there, because it you got to understand, what does that mean for the person's user, right? Does that brand mean anything to them?
Yeah.
Probably not, unless they really know your brand. And that we have seen that in the case for some of our clients. The brand name is very important. But a lot of times it's just that service. It is just that thing, that pain point that they're trying to really help in their lives, whatever, if it's repair, if it's, I need a new website, things like that. That is one of the most important things that you need to add into the copy. And you've got to do some testing. Eventually, I say don't touch your ads. I would say 30 days is a decent amount of time where you don't touch your ads. Yep. But again, if you need to do it earlier, it has to be a pretty good reason. But if after 30 days, it's okay, this is what works best, then you can probably set up some more ads, some more ad copy, and do some testing every 2 weeks, right? And say, okay, because Google will do a really good job of telling you which copy gets the most impressions. And then, you've got to probably have a little bit more expertise in the Google ad side to see that. But you will be able to really help your conversions just by that. Really increase your click-through rate, right? You definitely want high impressions, which come from your keywords, great click-through rate, which is going to come from your ad copy.
Now, real quick, can you break down what are the components of ad copy that people see? Because it's not just one word, one sentence, one line. So what are those components? Yeah,
so there is, you have your ad group. So you have your campaign, and you have your ad group, and then from the ad group you can set up your ads, all the copy where you're going to see a lot of that. And so you have the option to set up one. You can set up multiple ads. Usually I just start with one, and you have 15 headlines in there. And you don't have a lot of room to play with. Each of them have about 30 characters each. And so you've got to really be particular and hone in on what that copy is going to say, because those are the first things that someone's going to draw their attention to. But after that, you have 4 descriptions. And when I say that, though, Google is only going to serve possibly 2 to 3 headlines, depending if it's on mobile or desktop. So that's when it comes into your testing. But Google also does a really good job of having different options of pairing headlines together, and it'll find which ones resonate the most with that search user. And then the same thing with descriptions. It's only going to show 2 of the 4 at all times. And then, of course, you can take it to the another level where you can pin headlines. A lot of times there's some pros and cons to that. So, just be wary of when you do that. But those are really good options as well. And then I would say for leveraging a little bit more copy for your ads, you have from headlines, descriptions, then you have site links, which is very important. That usually navigates them to another part of your website or your landing page.
Not the homepage.
Not the homepage, yeah. So
not the homepage, people.
So those are very important. Again, those have a headline and sub-descriptions are shorter. And a lot of times Google I don't know how to really put this, they don't reward those who have the best ads, but if you are in the position 1, sometimes too, they will show your site links on those ads. And so you definitely want to have those set up and properly optimized as well. And then 2 bonus ones that sometimes I see that are missing are structured snippets. So again, just another way to leverage a couple more options of copy and then call outs. And those people miss those a lot of the times.
Yeah.
And Google will, once you set those up, Google will put those on your ads.
Yes.
That's just other ways to communicate to them, to your search users. So.
You look so much more polished, and you're giving people more information up front, which in my opinion increases the likelihood that they'll be qualified leads. Not a guarantee, but I love seeing that. And it just communicates, okay, we're doing this right, and we're really out to serve our customers well.
Yeah.
Okay, so once we nail down ad copy, this means, okay, people typed in, we got the right term, they're typing it in, they saw the ad copy, they liked it, like, that's what I'm looking for, like these guys, click, and then they land on a landing page. Now, we just mentioned, do not send your ads to your home page, and this is why. Relevance. They have to be looking for something, and then when they click through, they want to keep that conversation going. So Ramsey, talk to me about landing pages, because this is incredibly important, because leads are not clicks. And so everything is about what happens on the landing page. And I think some people lose sight of that.
Yeah, so that's excellent. And so again, we want to highlight that keywords need to align with your ad copy, and they need to align with your landing page. Or in another way, you need to have landing page congruency with your keywords and ad copy. All right, so you need to make sure that it's optimized for that search keyword for that copy, because when somebody, and I like the way graphic designers kind of put it, where you need to have that consistency when you're in that user journey, and especially with your image and brand, you need to do the same thing with your copy. If they search the keyword and the ad copy relates to the keyword, then the landing page that they go to must relate to the keyword and the ad copy that they search for. Because if they don't, they're going to realize that this is not the place that I need to be, and they're just going to bounce. So I learned that really early on, and you can use different tools to track that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that is very, very important. And a lot of times it's going to be that first top of the page over the, I can't even, it's not coming to me right now, but it's that first page, right? That header with the hero image, and that's got to relate to what it is. And if not, you got to have something below that at least will navigate them to what it is that you're going to send them to, right? Especially if you have multiple sets of services in that ad group. So
absolutely. Got to be thinking from the customer's point of view. Give them what they want. Do not talk about yourself. Do not start the prom queen wave about, oh, we're so amazing. Make sure you are talking to them about what they searched for, and make it so easy. Not dense copy, not lots of links and choices. We love videos. at the top that really speak to that. We like offers. There's so many ways to do this well. So, but this is where testing comes in, right? And messaging. So making sure that the persona and the message is aligned and that you've got some rationale on why are they there? What are we giving them? How do we support and progress that buyer's journey? So talk to me about some of the testing that can or should happen on landing pages.
Yeah, landing pages were my first intro into marketing, really, because it was the first thing I learned was email marketing, and of course you need a great landing page. Back then, back then it was just, I would send traffic to different parts of our services pages, and then I started discovering tools out there, landing page softwares. You probably heard of like ClickFunnels, and then I've heard of like way more. I started testing out these different landing pages, but that's where I really had my start, and I had a lot of experience of just going in and trying out different headlines, trying out different pictures, because I was also kind of on the creative side, and I was taking pictures and videos, and I wanted to try all these different things. But then, of course, I had that question that the business owner would ask me is like, okay, how are we going to get leads? Like, how are we going to convert these landing pages from our email? And email is a little bit different because a lot of times those are going to be a warmer audience, so to speak. So with Google Ads, it's going to be a colder traffic where they don't know who you are, right? They don't know if this is the service they're going to go with right away, especially if they're ready to buy. They might be trying to look for 2 other competitors. So you definitely want to engage with them. Top of the fold is what I was trying to think of earlier.
Yeah.
On the first part of the fold, you want to engage with them as soon as possible. So this kind of goes into that question of like, do I want to try to get them to marry me right away? Or do I want to, butter them up a little bit, say, hey, like we do offer this service. Here's a video on like what we can do. Here's, just don't take our word for it. Here's some reviews of other individuals who really love our service and our work. And of course you want to make sure, again, it is the colors, are the colors and everything like that consistent with your brand? Because if you're taking them from one page and the next step of the funnel is to a different page and it's a completely different brand color, people will start getting skeptical.
Yes.
Those things can really throw users off, and they'll just say, I'm going. I need somebody who has something that's clean, that's set up, but with enough information. So you can start with that, and then you can have reviews, you can have videos, you can have throughout the pages not too many options for conversions, but just kind of like conversion points, right? So you may want to say call here, add a button here that says start now, and then as they get further down the page, apply now, depending on what is that service, get a quote, different things that really kind of leads them into that form, which is probably going to be your main conversion point, and or the phone call. And so you definitely want to create that landing page. You don't want too little of a page, because then somebody may just say, "Oh, this
they're just trying to sell me something."
This is trying to sell me something. Yeah.
I don't have enough information. I'm not bothering with this form.
Yeah.
Totally.
And so that's when CRO comes in, that conversion rate optimization. You want to be doing testing. So sometimes your website may have this option. There's plugins for A/B testing. So you may want to test that, hey, in this fold, I want to have this image, or in this fold, I want to have this image with this button, right? And down below the fold, I want to have this video, but I want to have the reviews here. So that's where you want to set up a strategy of every 2 weeks, I want to test this every month, really probably more every month, every month and a half that you want to start testing those kind of landing pages to find what is doing really well.
Absolutely. Now, this goes back to something that Ramsey mentioned earlier, and it's about deliberate planning. You don't want to mess with it immediately. You want to go into this with some pretty strong rationale that your landing page is going to convert, and you need to let that run for a while so that you've got a benchmark and so that you know the keywords are working, it's the right clicks, and what's happening. Now, once you're getting consistent lead flow in there, then one at a time, you start saying, okay, what do we want to test? What is the one thing that we think might have the biggest impact on getting more people to convert? So conversion rate optimization, right? So what can we do? So maybe you're testing a headline. Great, that's a winner. Maybe you change the placement of the form next. Okay, now we got that. Maybe it's even so small that you're testing the color of the button. But guys, it's one item at a time where the audience is teaching you, this is how I like to engage with this style of content. And this is what I need to believe you and to turn interest into inquiry, because landing pages are where it happens. So I think this part is so fun, but it is the system. It's the long haul of, we're going to commit to this, and we're going to commit to get better and better and better and better, because that's what's possible. It's not, oh, that didn't work, pull the plug.
Right.
It's, okay, what can we learn about the audience, and what can their teachings help? Like, how can we better help them and get them into our funnel? So I love that. Any final things to consider on landing pages, or did we cover it?
That's a good point. I want to see if maybe I have something, but I think that a lot of time with landing pages, I love the way you put it. I mean, the audience is going to tell you exactly what it is that they want, or if it doesn't work with them, or whatever it might be. And I've heard it put another way, right? Like those metrics and those data points, they tell a story.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of times you're going to see that in your analytic tools and your CRM tools. It's going to tell you a story, right? Why is it that somebody visited this page and then they're bouncing in 10 seconds or 5 seconds, whatever it might be? Why is it that this page with the blue button, or this page with a form with extra fields, right? They're asking more questions, is doing better than the one that asks little questions, right? I don't know. Maybe, like you said, are they a more technical person? Maybe they like being asked these kind of questions. Maybe they don't like to be asked these amount of questions, right? So that is it's very fun. It's very important. And we have a really great graphics creative director here that enjoys his job and really takes that stuff seriously. So if you have somebody who does that, that's very important. If you don't own that, I mean, you make sure you're asking questions, make sure it's all set up and properly and the way you want it, because it can go a long way.
I mean, I hate to even bring this up, but we had one client who their website was so bad and their landing pages were so bad, we literally didn't even host their landing pages on their site so that we could have more creative control. Wow, it worked better when the design got better. So I love that you're saying that. So I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have outed that story, but we needed to arrest control because we didn't control the website. We didn't design it, and it was tanking their results. Okay, so this is a funny one. So we're up to number 4. It's funny that it's number 4 because this is not what we do fourth. But just in order of importance strategically, let's talk about tracking because there's a lot of brokenness that we find when ad accounts have been set up, or we get in the back end of GA4, anything, or it's not even set up at all.
Yeah.
Okay, talk to us about tracking. And I'm a little nervous because you're so good at this, and this is the part where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm in the deep end.
I love that. I love analytics. There's Google Analytics is the most popular one. We've had that one. That one's been around for a really long time, ever since they bought out, I forgot, it was like Firefly or something like that. That has been so very important. So when it was email and landing pages, I was watching my analytics all the time for the companies I worked with. And now we're on GA4. So if you haven't heard of that, that's the one I would probably say just go with that one. It's industry standard. It connects with all your Google Ads accounts, your Google Tag Manager, all these different things. And like Dacia was saying, I would put this top of mind, but most of the time, some websites have analytics set up, or if you have a website set up, they may have set it up. But you're right, there are actually a lot of those who just never set up their GA4 or never did the proper migration from Universal Analytics to GA4, and so that help. We come in, we help get that all set up for them. But a lot of times something we do at the Blender that I like is setting up the scorecards.
Yeah,
and so. Sometimes that will have things like leads, how many leads came through, click-through rates. And so you want to track some of that same data from Google Ads, right? So user average engagement time, which is a very important one. I like that one the most.
Yeah.
That shows how many people are actually actively on your landing page and website and moving around and doing something, right? They're reading. That will tell you a lot about your website and your landing pages. And then, of course, you can track other things at probably a more technical level. You can go and actually track your ads accounts, your ad groups, your campaigns, sometimes keywords, and that all has to do with that ecosystem of Google. So I would definitely say that you should start with analytics. There are others who, some clients that would like to track more like around the users year over year, and analytics will keep a long-standing history documented for all of that. So you can tell how well you're doing 3 months ago, 6 months ago, whatever it might be.
I mean, you bring up so many good points here. First of all, track. You have to be tracking. And Ramsey was talking about the difference between analytics and data versus a scorecard. And it really shouldn't say versus, it's and a scorecard. And it's because in these analytic tools, you can get data overwhelm. And so then people just go, you know what, I don't even know what I'm looking at. But when you decide to build a scorecard, you have zeroed in on the 2, 3, 4 key metrics that indicate future success and impact on the revenue. So the scorecard tells a very fast analysis of, is it working? And you can even watch trends happening in the scorecard, and you can see that in about 30 seconds. You don't have to do a deep dive because that insight has already been pulled by an expert like Ramsey and built into that, so you can see a full data narrative. And we're not going to go too much into the deep end on this, but another thing that Ramsey has done numerous times is this is about full attribution. So yes, you could track Google Ads, which is what we're talking about, but it can be connected to your HubSpot, your CRM, any of your automation tools, so that even if you don't close a deal for a year or longer, for a lot of people, those sales cycles are longer, you can still go back to the life of that lead and say, wow, that originally came from that trade show, or that did come from Google Ads, or that came from networking or word of mouth. And we can literally attribute what campaign it came from, no matter how long ago. So tracking is incredibly important to return on an investment. And I don't know, any final thoughts? Because we could do a whole episode on this one.
Oh, yeah.
But just start. Just make sure it's set up correctly.
Just make sure it's set up. You can. A lot of times those the reports that you have on GA4 that you see on the very first instance after setting up is probably all you need. It is what you need. So you'll see on the bottom right that there's going to be like pages and screens. Those are the pages that you can see some data. You can see some data on the top from users. So if you just clicked on just at that bottom right corner and it's like pages and screens, it will show you your different pages on your website. And a lot of times you can see your landing pages that you set up in that screen as well. And that's going to give you a list of different data points that you can start tracking and pulling data and putting into your own scorecard and things like that. So I typically, especially since we set up probably a couple of campaigns, multiple sets of campaigns, ad pages, if you're getting into that point of setting up ad pages and landing pages that you want to start testing against each other, that the GA4 will help in a lot. And once you set it up, it's set up and done. And then you can go in and track back to, what landing page did I have? Oh, that's connected to this ad group. And then you can start creating your custom reports. And so you may need an expert to kind of help you with, setting that up, but you could probably learn it in a couple of days or a week of just getting in there and things like that. So.
And it's a perfect example of why so many people do outsource this to an expert. I mean, my gosh, I think you've been doing this for a decade.
Yeah, almost, yeah.
And you keep learning and they keep changing. And so keeping up with the pace of change and continuing to go deeper and deeper. I mean, it's why typically there's high ROI in outsourcing and finding a really valuable partner in this.
Yeah, it's very important. It's just jumping in there, that's, how they say a lot of experience you're going to get after college. That's definitely been my story. So.
Absolutely. Okay, so number 5 is conversions. And this is really the name of the game. I want to calm conversions down for just a minute because marketing jargon alert, this is where people, especially C-level executives, start glazing over and getting frustrated. Conversion applies to every aspect of your marketing. how do you take a stranger who's never heard of you and turn them into a suspect, or even better, an audience member who is now paying attention to you, is aware of you, and is a little curious about you? That's a conversion, converting unawareness into awareness. And then once they're in your ecosystem, how do you convert awareness into interest? So now they're spending time with you, as Ramsey mentioned earlier. And then eventually, how do you convert interest into inquiry? They're filling out a form, they're clicking, they're calling, they're ordering. And then how do you convert that into a proposal and then a deal in B2B, right? So conversions are everywhere. These are not ego metrics. These are not marketing jargon terms. They are literally the tracking mechanisms for watching the buyer journey and making sure that you fill your pipeline, not just this quarter, but way out into the future. So we're sticking to Google Ads. I just needed to kind of paint that picture because I really get nervous when we start talking marketing language, and people need to realize this is ROI, and this is really where the numbers and the return on investment shows up. So when you're talking about optimizing conversion for Google Ads, where do you go? Like, talk to me about conversions in Google Ads.
Yeah, that's a really great question, and it's that conversions is the main aspect that I really look at, especially when I look at clients' Google Ads accounts. That's probably the first one, and we'll talk about that on my checklist of looking at, is your conversion set up properly in Google Ads? Because believe it or not, you can track almost everything like that happens, right? So if you make a sale, you can send that sort of data back to Google. So I probably should have mentioned this very early on. Google Ads, you definitely want to send as much data as possible back to your Google Ads account, right? So keyword data is very important, right? I mean, keywords are important, keyword data, but conversion data, if what it is that is converting and whatever that conversion point is, get that set up. And so part of my job is I try to think is how many different possible ways can we convert on your current website and landing page if we need to just go to market really fast and get these campaigns set up. So I have one set up for phone calls. I have one set up for all your forms. You may have 3 or 4 or 5 forms. I'm setting those up. Right? If you have different phone numbers, I'm setting those up. If you have emails throughout your website, using GA4, using Google Tag Manager, I can get those points and get those set up in the conversion load them on your website and have that data sent to your Google Ads. And so that is very important because that helps Google Ads learn that, these are the people that you want to work with. They know who is searching in a sense. They know what time they came through. They know a keyword, what state, location, all of that. And so when they see that, this data point came from this optimal time and day and whatever it may be, they're going to then start serving the ad a little bit more on that point, right? So especially if you're running these things kind of on your own and you just want something that's set up and optimal, that's very important. I love conversion. So, even if you're CRM or if you're using Zapier or Salesforce, they have some built-in options where if you do get a lead that came in and made a sell from your ads, then you can send that data point back to your Google Ads and make sure that Google knows that person that came a long time ago from this ad, because however long it may be to convert them, ended up becoming a sale. So Google now knows that because you sent that data back to them, that this is the type of person you want to start ranking for. And I've seen that go a really long ways. But also I've seen the opposite where I've gone into someone's Google Ads account and somebody who came from an agency that set them up completely just messed up their conversions, right? They first of all, like, conversions could be any point, like we were saying, phone calls, it could be emails, it could be forms, it could be a specific page or search tool that you want them to download or use. But I love the way you put it sometimes. It's like, okay, so that's a conversion, marketing qualified lead-ish, right? But then you want to drive them down to being a sales qualified lead, right? So those are really the ones that you want to specifically convert. And so that lead right there, you may get them into your campaign or into your CRM, but then what is it that you do once you let's say, for example, it's a form, right? So we got their name and email, and they're in your HubSpot, all right, or your whatever CRM you're using. What do you have set up after they come into your ad campaign, right? Do you have an email series set up for them? All right, do you have a salesperson that's ready on deck to qualify them before they even reach your actual sales manager, right? Do you have somebody who can appointment set for you, right? Do you have the CEO already alerted that this lead came through, because they may want to see that. They want to see that these ads are working, right? There's all kinds of little things that you can do to help with this conversion. Let's say that you don't have a form and you didn't capture the information, and your conversion is that they came to your website from your Google Ads and they used a search tool, right? We have this set up for a couple of clients where if they just use the search tool here to filter out different products, but they don't actually give us their information, that's still a conversion for us. We like that. Mm-hmm. We like to see that. So, okay, cool. But eventually we would like for them to convert, right? We want to make sales.
Exactly.
Right? So, perfect. Okay, so they use the search tool, they got the information, they left. What do you do now, all right? So that's when GA4, that's when your ads start to kick in, because then once they visit your website, GA4, Google Ads, the tags, everything that's set up on your back end of your website can then start tracking these individuals. So, a long time ago, people were like, how am I getting tracked? How is it that I searched for something or thought about something, these ads show up? There's probably more bigger things at play there, but for what you can do now, you can actually retarget those individuals. You can build an audience of those who use your tool and then reach them in other parts of the internet, right? Or even do a whole retargeting campaign on your on search, right, or search network. So this is all about retargeting and getting in front of those who came to your website but ended up leaving for whatever reason, right? So they got the information or they're just doing some research. So.
Yeah. And real quick, retargeting is when an ad follows you around on Google. So even though you didn't search it, all of a sudden that company or that thing keeps coming up. Takes 7 to 13 touches to get a marketing qualified lead. This matters, and it's better data. So anyways, a little bit about retargeting, because it is another lever that you have in order to increase return on investment. Now, I want to bring up one quick story about conversion. So we recently ran for a manufacturer Google Ads, and it was an education campaign. And so our conversions in that were watch the video or download the paper. So we were just watching clicks because we wanted this to get out there. We wanted to get it to a highly targeted audience. Great. And they're getting phone calls. And you're tracking that. And so a campaign that we did not think was going to generate sales qualified leads did, but because you had the tracking set up, and basically we went from 0 in December to 30 by the end of February, and now they're like about to double that this month. It's so exciting, but that's the power of conversion, because now it's opening up some really great conversations with that client that they were like, oh, no, our sales team's got it. But yeah, that will probably help them put that out there. And now they're actually driving more business. And so it's very cool. Yeah. But that story, I wanted to bring it up because it brings up the offer. So yes, we want sales, but sometimes there are different offers and it's worth testing. So do you mind chatting about having different types of offers in Google Ads?
Yeah, that of course. So with offers, you've got to have something. So one way I've seen someone put this was that, okay, you have your core service, your core audience that you're trying to target, right? So your target niche. And for that person, right, let's say it's professional development, and we have a client like this that they may have some pain points that they want to have, they want to fix some things or they want to improve on things, right? There's always someone trying to get better in professional development spaces, leadership training, whatever it might be. So if you can identify what those are, those pain points, those things that they're searching for throughout their journey, then if you can create some sort of, let's call it just a simple conversion, a simple form or a simple checklist or a simple ebook or something around that topic, that can be just your conversion right there. However, once they convert, you may want to have your offer lined up really, really soon after that, right? So if you have your email series, you got to have some kind of low barrier entry offer that might be, you got to pick a number, right? You got to pick anything around $47. It might be $197. It could be $997, whatever it might be. That way, it's something that gets them in the door a little bit more, right? It's something that you already identify the pain point, you identified a really great pricing metric, and that's going to get them to come in to not maybe get to your final service just yet, but it's something that gets them to commit. And a lot of it in my experience was in the professional development space very early on. And so I really love this strategy. And we had Google Ads, we had Facebook, and it was around ebooks, right? So or white papers, and that information was very valuable to these business owners or managers or whoever it might be. And once they got that information, we had an inside salesperson. If they had a phone number, reach out. We had an email marketing sequence set up. But the very first offers that we were trying to get them was just to come see us in an actual training program.
Yeah.
Right. And it was free most of the time. And it was a workshop on that same type of pain point. And we would get them in, right? We would get them to this workshop, set up the whole event tables with food, and we had our speaker, and it was really fun. And then after it's done, sometimes we would send them to the back to kind of talk with our salespeople, our trainers, and then they would leave. And then the next thing was, okay, well, if they weren't ready to buy then we still had another follow-up series for that, right? We had an email on, how did you enjoy it, survey. Then we had an offer to an actual preview meeting to the service that we were offering, the main course, if you will, the main training program, which that was a small offer. I think it was like $99, and that got them into the first session of that program. And people come and enjoy it. They get the experience. Sometimes it was the actual session to the program that started with actual buyers, or not actual buyers, but people who already paid the program, and they experienced it with others, and they thought, "Oh, this is amazing. Yeah, I would love to do this." So then they get with the person, and then they might either start that program and continue it the next day or the next week. And so the program could have been $2,000, and they were like, "Oh, but you took them down that pipeline. You took them down that journey." And eventually they said, okay, so you can do that same thing for digital. You can do that same thing all online with webinars and email series and make it evergreen and just get it set up where it almost kind of runs on its own. And then when they're ready to buy, we've seen this before. They say, "I saw your videos. I saw your series. I'm excited about this. I'm ready to sign up. I'm ready to get on this discovery call with you and get this program started."
Yes.
And then after that process, it was, can we talk about keeping them, right? And continue on and make them increase the lifetime value of that lead. So.
And that's the thing. You are literally talking about choreographing and knowing your buyer's journey. And that's a brilliant example of that. And we work with a lot of consultants. We work with a lot of professional services, and just thinking a little bit more critically and strategically about how does a buyer need to research? What do they need in order to feel comfortable? What are the small little investments, whether it's time, whether it's attention, whether it's $99? What are those little things that start to build their confidence and build their belief in you? And man, that's when it gets so exciting, because while Google Ads, we want people to be getting leads now and meetings now and hitting their number this quarter. Yep. We also want people to be filling the pipeline for next quarter and even next year, depending on the sales cycle. And that's what does this, is because you can get so many levels of ROI when done appropriately. And that's why it literally does build the system. Yeah. So final one, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this one, you guys, but you need to know about it, because as you advance, you continue to add layers to this. And so the final one is heat mapping. So what is heat mapping, and when would you deploy this?
Yeah. So with heat mapping, it's similar to an analytic tool like GA4. There are several heat mapping tools out there that you can use. And that you would want to use that once you sort of identified everything, like your keyword, your your copy, and you're just wondering, okay, what parts of the pages or what is really speaking out to my user base, right? And so there are some really advanced tools that can even track, certain parts of the clicks and where they're moving throughout the site. And that will tell you a story of, okay, everyone who comes here is bouncing too much, or everyone who comes here seems to be drawn to this part of the page a little bit more often. And heat mapping will tell you that with the different color skews and things.
Cool.
It's super cool. And that one, it's almost just kind of self-explanatory on what it can do. However, you can get a little more advanced and set up different reports and different pages that you want to track. But that will be very important. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was just back to sort of like a checklist of everything, like with the heat mapping.
You had me at checklist.
Yeah.
I love checklists because of quality and outcomes. So exciting. I'm so glad you're bringing this up.
Yeah, so again, with your ads, right, and we've talked about already, in that buyer's journey, if you want to create more conversions from your ads, you've got to think about where can ads be placed in the whole process, right? So there's the search intent, right? Then you have the retargeting aspect where you can do it on search or display. You can target it on YouTube. You can retarget them on Gmail. You can retarget them on different parts of the internet and the websites, and you can hone in on what exact sites that you actually want to show up on. So if you have a decent sized budget, you can be in every part of that user journey. And even after the sale, right? You want to increase that lifetime value, you definitely want to start improving that. But anyways, I would like to get into I like to get into the checklist. So this is for those who probably already have ad counts set up. You're not necessarily starting your ad campaigns. So the first one is, of course, conversions, right? I wanted to talk about this. I already covered a lot about it. Just make sure everything's set up there correctly. Your forms, your phone numbers, but then you also want to assign those conversions to a specific campaign, right? If that conversion is going across all your campaigns, and it might just throw everything out of sync and out of whack. It's just, you want to make sure that you give it a name and you assign it to the right campaign. That way, that campaign only converts for that conversion metric. All right, so we already talked about offers, but the next part of my checklist is auction insights. So you can look at exactly how your ads are performing compared to other competitors around those keywords.
Winning.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I love seeing this. So we just, like that client you were kind of talking about with the phone calls. We had set up the ad campaign. We had 2 sets of ad groups, and they had their own specific keywords, but they related with the same type of service business, right? They would probably in any point work with that type of material. And for a while, we noticed that on the auction insights that the competitor was outranking us, right? So, but eventually with some optimizations and looking at the insights, we saw that we started to slowly get above the competitor, and it's been really great.
So fun.
So it's been it's really cool to be able to tell that news to our clients, but also, as a business owner, I'm sure you're just thinking like, wow, this is really amazing to see that we're now in position 1 above our competitor. So auction insights will tell you that when a new person or a new competitor enters the game, or when somebody starts to outrank you, then you need to start doing something differently. Also, it will tell you if you're in position 1. A lot of times you will look at your absolute top of page rate, which is really you want to try to be in the metric around like 20%. That's about average. So you can be below, you can be above, but you really won't get higher than that unless you just have a really great offer and product that a lot of people are looking for. We have that one client around the cleanup, so it's kind of like an emergency sense. So there's going to be a lot of position 1s for that one. It's a higher metric for that one. But that would tell you that, hey, this my ad copies are not resonating. Google's not serving it up because for ABC, whatever it might be. So the next one would be location targeting. There's 2 very popular ways of setting up your ad accounts. One is when you target the location. A lot of times, if you're just going for the U.S., there's a part in there where you have to drop it down. It's kind of like an advanced option, and you've got to look for the people in or regular in your targeting locations. Everyone in the Google Ad space always mentions this one, and it's my job to tell you too. Make sure that's set and saved, because you don't want people who have just visited your site, but they live somewhere else, right? They are in that location. But then there's also ways to narrow down your audience to specific cities, states, whatever it might be. And Google will tell you how many clicks and conversions come from those different states. And you may see that, these states, California doesn't really make sense for my business actually, because there's less of my presence there, or there's less of that type of service there. So you may want to remove that as an option or lower the bidding. So search networks is another important one that you can find in your settings. So a lot of times people are, when they get their ads account set up, or when they set up the account, they forget to turn this off because Google applies it automatically for whatever reason. And so display and search networks are usually checked. And what that does is it takes your budget from Google and puts it into these partner sites, right? So other search networks that they partner with, but it's not on Google. And if that's very important to you, where you just want to be on Google only, because that 90% of search traffic share is probably on Google, you want to be on Google, right? So you definitely want to check that off. That's just a simple optimization that you can do to help improve. And then, or if you want a low cost option, you want to get in front of more people, you can turn it on. That it can also help. I've seen that here recently with some industries. Bidding strategies. A lot of times, if you're in like e-commerce, maximize clicks, getting a lot of traffic to your site is probably really great. But since we're talking about conversions, my favorite is maximize conversions. It's a really great smart bidding option to set up your ads count. And you don't want to give it any, you want to set it up there because Google is going to look at the conversions that you send back to them and try to optimize for that. And it's going to maximize at the best value for that conversion, for that ad account. And then you eventually, if you find that you really perfected this, you can then add a filter of how much you want to spend, like a target amount that you want to spend per lead, right? So it's called a TCPA, target cost per acquisition. And then the last one is ad schedules. A lot of people just set it and again forget it, but those ads are running 24/7. So if you don't have any salesperson set up for the nighttime, or somebody, you may be just wasting your money again. So make sure that you have an optimal time. Don't narrow yourself too much. A lot of times we do like 4 a.m. to 11 p.m. or 9 p.m. But there are others who we actually set up 24/7 because somebody might come in later in the night, working night shifts or whatever it might be, depending on the industry, manufacturing industry. Mm-hmm. Then you got East Coast, West Coast, all these different things that factor in. So, but those are great ways to help improve your ads. So those are just some snippets of my checklist that I kind of go through in my head and I've learned throughout the years. So yeah,
it's powerful. I love it. So you guys, told you we were going to give you some really deep dive type of stuff. Now, for those of you that are wondering, are my folks doing this? If you are interested in getting an audit, feel free to reach out to us. Go to our website, themarketingblender.com. And when you fill out a form, simply let us know that you saw this episode, and you can actually hop on with Ramsey and he'll walk through an audit of your account and give you guys some recommendations. And so thank you so much, as always, for subscribing. And if you haven't, hit that button. And we love it when you give us a thumbs up. Even more important, hit us up on a comment or a DM so that we know what else you want to hear about. So thank you guys so much. Onward and upward.